Good morning everyone, welcome to my channel. So I'm back to start stitching my Botanical Beauties. So we've got all the paint laid down, well, a bit for now. I might do more, but at the moment it's just giving me that pop of colour, and then I'll come in now with some stitches and some beads and maybe some fabric. I don't know, we'll see what takes our fancy. I just want to use a hoop. My fabric doesn't have that extra layer of felt or wadding that I would normally put under my work. So I'm going to use a hoop just to keep it nice and stable and allow me to, stitch in without it going all puckered. If I had some wadding, my favourite is the felt. You can buy it by the metre from Spotlight in Australia. It's a sort of like it's not a real wool felt, it's a mix, a blend, but it's pretty good and it's lovely to, gives you that thickness. I did consider putting something on the back, but I've decided that I won't, because it is, at the end of the day, a little tablecloth. So it'd be nice to, I guess, stitch it the way it was meant to be stitched. And in that case, you sort of need a bit of a hoop. So I've got my watercolour book out here, which gives me quite a good feel for how light and colour bounces around a pansy. So that one there was one I showed you at the beginning of the series. So I'm sort of going to refer to that, but I'll put it off screen and it's sort of just there. This pansy I really referred to the image and followed that as a guide. That one I sort of started doing my own thing, and this one I just blotched paint and colour and just had a bit of texture change in the colour. So I'm wanting to now, I've got my cottons from Stitch the Season sitting here, the summer one, and they sort of just work. So I thought, I'm going to just delve into these, I think. See what I've got here and have a play, because they sort of work. So how are we going for, can I see the time? Yes. So I'm filming up at Burham, so I'm having to look at the top of my screen, my iPad, to see how long I've been filming, where when I'm in Brisbane, it projects to the TV. I got, better setup. So I've just picked up the first colour. And I guess I've got to decide which flower we put that into, and then what colour follows after that. This guy's going to be real red and pink. I've got a Sue Spargo thread here too. And I've got yellow, and I should have some white or cream kicking around if I need to, pop some colour in. So I'm thinking the first thing I might do is define my petals. So I might do a split, or do I do a stem? Gosh, I can never decide when I first kick off. I might do a split back stitch to get the outline of, oh, did I put a knot? I did, but I've jiggered it up already. Let's start that again. I was thinking about colours and not concentrating. I'll bring the needle up there, not so much in the centre. And lay it down like that. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to outline that petal with this darker thread, and then I can fill in inside. It's a bit like colouring in, isn't it? Colour in the outline of the petals or your shape, and then fill in the middle. I think this will be a good start. This will neaten up any edges. If you find that your fabric is really bled, this hasn't done too bad actually, but I did try and keep the water back a bit, sort of not make it as wet. This would allow you to bring back that defined edge if you wanted. If you want that bleed look where it's bled out a little bit, well then you just make your own way with your thread. I'm easy come, easy go. I don't mind that bled look. It sort of helps me think, yes, it's a watercolour. The other thing I'm tempted to do is actually stitch past my painted area too. That can be quite effective, where you take your stitch out, you know, it's getting really artistic. But it's up to you, whatever you fancy. And at the end of the day, we're now in the enhancing stage. We've laid down a bit of colour. Gosh, if you look at the piece of fabric that I'm using for Stitch the Seasons, we've just got a smear of watercolour. So I've actually given myself probably more paint than I do see sometimes on fabric when it's a watercolour print. Couldn't help myself, I just kept slushing the paint around. It's a lot of fun. Makes a change, doesn't it, when you can bring other mediums into your work. And I'm happy with this colour. This is going to just give it a bit of a punch. So that'll be the first thing I do to this flower. I won't make you sit through the whole thing. I'll just map out a few. Gee, that was a big stitch. That was getting a bit big. See, I started thinking about the next thing I was going to do and did this huge stitch. I might have to go rummaging for a better hoop too. This one's already sloppy, so this bolt is probably, this is a hoop I found at an op shop that came with some fabric and thread, so I'm guessing they probably haven't put in that little kit a very good quality hoop. I need to find my bamboo ones. They're really good. This one's a bit on the cheapy side, I think, but for the purposes of getting us started, I think this will be fine. All right, so that's my outline of my flower. I might even have to dig out some wools, find my ribbons, and just have a play. So I might take that petal right in through here. So this is going to get my boundaries back. Once you start sort of slushing watercolours around, they can bleed everywhere unless you distinctively change colours, but this one definitely was a mush of colours. I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but there is a bit of a red centre, then that hue of purple, and then it goes paler again. So I've certainly got enough guide there to see where I should stitch. So that's a definite. Where's a little tray that I can put my definite threads in so they don't get lost? Let me just grab, there's my little wren. That's a definite thread. Pop that in the container. Then we might have a think about some pinks. So we can go quite pale. They're very similar, aren't they? I don't think I'll use the Suspargo. I want to go for chunky threads. Yeah, we could probably even play with that one, or we go darker. I think, let's have a stitch of the purple. Because I have a feeling once I work out which purple, it will set the tone for the rest of the flower. It'll either be that or that. Yeah, I can already see. I think I want that. This little pansy is going to have a bit of a deeper tone. And as for this pansy, I'm thinking along the lines of that. And then find a yellow to come through there. This little guy, I'll leave him probably to last. Here could be anything. We'll see how these main one goes, main flowers go. But I'm thinking I'll just do long and short stitch. I might just map the area out. So that literally just means I'm going to scoot along, not doing the stitch properly. Oh, goodness me. You know what's going to drive me bonkers is this crocheted edge. I'm going to have to keep it out of the way because I've got 2 needles threaded. How did that happen? Oh my goodness, it's quite early in the morning and obviously I could probably do with another couple of hours sleep. So I'm going to just scoot along that whole petal, just laying down a few strokes of the purple. And then if I'm happy with it, I'll come back and do the proper stitches to fill it in, to make it more dense, I guess is what I'm trying to say. This needle must be a little on the blunt. So this is definitely all purple through this zone. It's like taking a pencil and just doing a quick shade of colour to make sure you're on the right track, and then you can sort of switch the mind off and settle in to getting, that's good, getting it filled back in when you don't want to have to think too much about. This is going to be a whoosh of purple. And the thing with this project too is I'm going to try and not stitch everything. I want the paint to be seen. Like I've gone to the effort of doing it. I don't want to lose some of the effect. If I get to an area and I really love the shading or something, I want to, you know, maintain it a little. So that's definitely in the back of my mind. Now I'm just thinking, I wonder if this next pink, will I go to the outside of the petal or will I go to the inside? I'm thinking the inside might be really good for beads, to be honest. That'd be a bit cute. Look, at the end of the day, this flower may not even look like a bloomin' pansy when I finish. It doesn't matter. It'll be fun anyway. Remember, the whole premise of this project is to be loose and artistic instead of precise. And so I'm thinking I'm going to stitch down into that purple with this pink. That's what I feel like I want to do. And once again, I'm just going to map out. Keep it straight, girl. Map out the zone. Could probably find a really pale pink. Look how floppy my fabric's getting already. This hoop really probably needs to go in the bin. I found it quite hard on my fingers to actually twist that little grommet there. That's really very unpleasant. So I don't think, oh, it's so hard to throw things out, but maybe if it had felt, I'm sure I've used it before, if it had felt with the fabric, you'd have plenty to grip. It might be a case of the fabric is not doing me any favours as well. So I'm going to need a fairly good quality hoop so that, you know, it all holds, because this will be quite annoying if I've got to keep tensioning. My stitches have got a bit out of control there. So I changed the style. I was doing stab stitch, down, up, down, you know, and I'm now trying to scoot us along a little. By sort of taking a scoop of fabric. I just start bending the stitches around a little to try and get that curve. You can really play with colour with pansies, so I was quite surprised at actually how many I haven't actually seen in real life. There's quite a variety out there now. So that colour's good. I'm happy with that. Now I wonder if I've got a pale pink that could scoot. Oh, what's that? That's an old... It's an old thread. I wonder if I could, might as well check it out, and if it's no good anymore, we'll chuck it away. It feels old. It's going to break down on me. But it will give a completely different texture feel. Oh goodness me, we're going to have a mess. Just take it slow, girl. That's it. Now let's... It's like a corally colour. If I'd pre-prepared myself, which I never do, I would have the thread end found. It's got that funny feel that old threads get. It might loosen up. It might just have been sitting for so long, it's lost it's got a bit stiff. What's that? There we go. So it's like a skein that's been twisted on itself. It's quite fine. I might stitch with two strands, or not two strands, double it up. I'll just see how it looks. I'm not convinced yet that this is the colour I want, but I like how this probably would blend well with the yellow in the centre. It's sort of getting a bit of a yellowy pink about it, so it might actually work through the centre too, but I'm going to throw it up across. Do I go up there? Yeah, what the hang. My instinct is to pop it up here. I want this pansy to be a little bit dark and moody. I could get this knot sorted. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned a few minutes ago, I've forgotten already if I have, but I've got a quiet day today, so I thought, I'm going to jump on the camera, get a few colours laid down, work out a bit of a strategy for this piece. And then I can sit and do a bit of stitching. I've been racing around, busy, and I've got a bit of a quiet one today, and I was like, oh yes, please. It's probably why I feel weary this morning. Probably could do with another hour's sleep. It's about 7 o'clock, maybe even still about 6:30. I don't know. I've had my coffee, but it doesn't seem to kick in yet. Yeah, I think this will work. That's going to tone into that previous pink reasonably well. And doing it 2 strands is helping with its thickness. So I'm going to pop a little line of that through. And this will set us up for this pansy's bands. That blends down into that previous pink stitch. I think that'll be quite effective. Hope you guys can see what I'm doing. I haven't zoomed in because it's just straight stitch. There's nothing exciting happening here. It's all about colour and how we're going to get some. There we go. That's pretty good. It actually blended better than I thought it would. How interesting. Now, because I've knotted it, you know, done a loop, I've got a little bit left, and I'll probably sneak it down here, but I might leave that needle now hanging because I want to come back with the dark and actually have a little stitch in there as if that petal has curled over, you know, curled up. What I'm thinking is I might come up here and do that split back stitch again on the inside of that original line. So I'll just stay as close as I can to the edge there. But as I get down into that little gap I've got, I'll fill it in. Another way to sort of show a curled little edge on a petal, I find, is using some beads. Put a little crusty edge on that, so the beads become the curled lacy edge. Can be quite pretty as well. But I know I don't have a bead that colour, so I'd probably be introducing a third pink. And I've already got 3, so I'm thinking I might just leave it at that. The apricot-y pink, the pink, and then this one. So now I'm going to go back in there, work back to where I started, but I won't need to go as far because I've already sort of got myself some stitches in there. And this will give a completely different feel or texture to that area. So I'm hoping then the eye will go, oh, okay, there's something happening there. Oh, the petal is twisted. Changing the direction, I guess, of the petal. That's the theory. I think it'll work, but I think the purple will just be this little blush of purple through. And I have a sneaking suspicion I'm going to pick up that coral, this guy, and work into the centre of that little petal. But we'll see. We'll see how the day goes. We're getting ourselves a bit of a kickstart. I won't focus on leaves today. I'm going to just stay in the colour. I feel like a day of colour is needed. So that's pretty much filled in, and I might just sneak a couple stitches down into there because I feel like I got a bit of a line. Actually, when I come back through the apricot, I might break. See how there's a line there? It just doesn't seem right. I might curl it up here. Maybe that's the ticket. Just to break that. Soften the edge is what I'm trying to say. Use the right words, girl. Oh, I know why I feel so doughy this morning. I had a late night. For me, midnight's a late night. Since the old menopause, I seem to be getting to about 10:30, and that's enough. I go to bed. But then I'm up at the crack of sparrows, which is ludicrous at times. But I had a late phone call from some friends, so we were sort of all chatting on FaceTime. And I looked at the time and I could feel my eyes were starting to drop. And I was like, oh, see you later, guys. I think I'm going to go to bed. I think that's going to work a treat. I'll stay in the bands and I'll thicken up that purple, drop the coral into the centre. But I do want to have a little play with the centre. and just throw a few little stitches in there. I'll grab my needle. I'm using a chenille needle because they're nice and straight and, well, that's a silly sentence. They've got a good eye on them. So you can flip between thicknesses of threads easily. So what I might do is we've got a downward facing petal. So let's put a few stitches into that petal. Because if we muck around too much, we'll lose the structure of the petals. So we need a little bit of yellow. What's going on back here? Did anyone see if I knotted that? I did. Oh boy, maybe I shouldn't be operating sharp devices. Oh goodness me. Just busting to get these threads in this just to see how it's all going to go. And the other thing too, because we're playing with paint and text, you know, paint and thread, you don't need to stitch it all. I'm really tempted to leave this guy painted and maybe just do just a few stitches. I really like him and I really like him. But we'll see. You know how it is. You have the best laid plans, and then as you start working a piece, you're like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that. And you start mucking around. You probably should have put it down, but you kept going. The other thing too is if I end up getting a bit out of hand and stitch it all, I could leave the daisies and then come back in with a black pen to reinstate my lines so that I do have that, and maybe that's the way to go. So I do get that paint pen, thread, bead, fabric look. I don't know. It's early days. The girl can't be required to make such important decisions at this stage. So I'm now working on the petal that's to the side. So I'm trying to fan my stitches out. I can't go too far because I'll be bringing in that maroon edge there. So I might just be a little cautious. Now there's a petal in the background there. I'm going to throw a few stitches up of yellow there. Look, I'm probably breaking all the rules too, that this centre should be done after you've laid down all your exterior stitches. But, you know, girl just has to flip around a little bit, have a play. All right, so I've just thrown the one stitch there for this guy, but he's a little bit behind, so I don't think I'm going to go too many. I'm going to scoot over to this second side petal and throw a few angled stitches out there. It really is about being loose, Corrine. Loose. Don't fill it in too much. Just, it's not Stitch the Seasons where I'm covering the entire piece in thread. You will not see the fabric below without it being enhanced. This is about flipping around and, yeah, it's a little bit different. I'm trying to be loose. Loose. That's a really good colour, that. Would have been one of Grandma's old colours. It's not the right colour for that guy, is it? It's more of a yellow. That's nearly a 4-ply. Wonder what that would look like. Or do I go more? Don't know. Focus on one thing at a time, girl. Oh, I can hear my grandmother. It's interesting, isn't it, when that happens? You can hear a voice and you're like, Well, do we have that little guy sorted? I think we do. Let's go to Now we will go to this guy, and I'm going to just grab this really bright purple and throw a few stitches, because there's a pale, a washy bit here. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I'm gonna run with it. The other thing I'm seeing is, see these little touches of, but geez, I'm good. I gave myself something interesting to stitch. I'm going to scoot around that edge like so. I wonder if I've got a black pen here with me. I have bought most of my paints and pens and bits and bobs from Brisbane up to this room. I'd say if I went hunting, I might be able to find a black pen and have a go at sketching in detail that I want to stay. Like, I'm really tempted to let all this stay. I like how that looks very loose, because remember, this is iron-on pen. So, you know, you go and wash your little tablecloth and iron it, I'll lose that detail. So I really need to have a think about getting that black pen and a permanent ink pen. That'd be the other thing. I need to see if they're permanent ink fabric pens. Bit of research needed in that department. So I'm just scooting along that edge. I might come up this other side so then I can pick up the fabric, make it a bit quicker. I'll be here for all day and do a stitch a bit quicker. I can hear text messages coming in on my phone. Hope it's nothing important, because the girl's stitching. It's amazing how the stitch looks completely different when you go from stab stitch to this style of picking it up, and it nearly gives it a different nap. It's interesting. Just a random observation. So I'm getting a nice little purpley raised edge. Love, love, love that. Very pretty. I'm so tempted to leave that yellow unless I can find something that really matches it. That is really cute. And it's given it a nice little raised edge. You guys probably can't notice it, but I'm thinking it is purple all the way on this flower. Leave the yellow. So we'll make him really dense. His paint's dense, so I think we'll really stitch him. This one we might keep a little bit more ethereal-like, if that's the right word. I don't know if that is the right word. Floaty. I'm going to come up over here now. Whether I find a pale purple to do in those areas, I don't know. I think I'll just get that one colour down first, then have a think. The next video will be interesting. I'll be reporting back with my pansies done, and I can show you my adventures. Getting a nice lacy little edge on this. Okay. Now I can see a little bit of purple here. Just a little bit. So I might just pop a couple little stitches. I'll keep going until I run out of this thread around that perimeter. So this is the fun thing about this, because we've laid a paint colour down that I really like. I'm happy with it. Happy to look at it for the rest of my days. the beautiful thing is, if the colour isn't quite nice or like it, you can have another go at it and stitch over it. And if you still don't like it, you've got the option of finding some fabric that is a lot better and using that to bring in a whole different, like we're potentially getting three goes at the flower, you know. It's you can stitch over and stitch over too. Like if you don't like that first colour, stitch in again. Find something to... Don't know if I'll bring wools out. I don't know. I like how these crochet cottons have that little sheen about them. I'm a bit of a fan of sparkle. If you've been watching me a while, you know that I like to bring in I'm going to bring in beads and things like that. I've got a little bit of thread left. I'm going to shoot some stab stitches up the throat of this pansy. I would love this tablecloth to be something that when I throw it down on a table, I want my hands to go to it and sort of feel what I've done. And it's not to be totally embroidered, I guess, I think. Texture, oh gosh, that bloomin' word. We want texture, we want texture. Gosh, that stitch came out then. These ones here were done by the previous person that owned this cloth. And I think they're really good. That's that, oh, I thought it was blanket stitch. It's not. So she's done satin stitch and then put a whip stitch around the outer edge to give it that raised edge. I at first glance thought that was actually a blanket stitch, but it's not. There you go. So I haven't actually sat and studied the detail. When you glance at these things, you miss so much. It's like when you show a piece of your work to someone and you've spent 2 hours working on some tiny little detail and they notice something random elsewhere and you're like, yeah, but look at that. And their eye doesn't see it. They might see it the next time. It's quite interesting what the eye notices. Where was I? Oh, here we go. Here's a story. Many moons ago, I used to look after a heap of Blockbuster video stores. And I remember the head office staff who, study everything about the business, said that when we laid our new release wall around the back of the shop, it was about 8 shelves, maybe 9 shelves, that the customer's eye will only absorb 2 of those shelves of information. So we would put a title at the top that would take, say, 3 shelves. Then in the middle at the eye, you would put all those random videos where there might have only been 2 copies or 1 copy or 4 copies, just a lesser, but, title. They'd be in the middle. And then you'd put another title under that might be another 2 shelves, and then a title at their feet, which would be 3 or 4 shelves. I just can't remember how many shelves it was now. So when their eye would scan the new release wall looking for a title, you could put in that zone, and the head office staff would say that if you made a square like that, like a viewfinder, that's all the information that their brain will take in. So in that little square, you would lay as many movie titles as we could to give them lots of options. And then the perception was when they'd leave, like, gee, that store had lots to choose from. And it was purely because we were jam-packing into that little field of view. And they even knew the average height of people and where that viewfinder would move to, a child, for example, versus an adult. So the kids section was slightly different layout, so that the eye height of the kids, there'd be something, and then a little bit higher above that would be something for the mum or dad to sort of spot in that viewfinder. And I was fairly young when I had that job. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, they are literally analysing everything that we do. It was very interesting. Look, I picked up this pail. I glanced to the side here and saw this. And I think I'm going to have a little, what do I do with my needle? Oh my goodness. See, I went off on a tangent to tell you some random useless information. Here it is. It's got purple still in it, thank goodness. It's my favourite needle at the moment. Bar this one that's already tangled up in the threads. Can't see anything going wrong with that when I grab a handful of fabric cane. Dangerous. I'm starting to wake up now. The coffee is kicking into me. I'm getting chatty. Getting annoying now. So what I'm thinking, see this bit here? Gosh, someone clever painted this. Can't believe there's so many opportunities to stitch. I'm going to bring that down into here. How are we going for time? Gosh, 41 minutes. No. Oh, goodness, what have I done? Why am I struggling to start? Oh. I really enjoyed my time at Blockbuster. I started as a little casual. We were opening lots of stores in Queensland. They'd come to Australia. They'd been in Melbourne and Sydney, busy opening up shops, and they sent up a gentleman who's actually become a very good friend. If you're watching Adam, you're probably not, because you're not interested in stitching. Hello. And his wife Kelly, who they met at Blockbuster, and they've got a little, I think they've got 2 kids now. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, I was hired by Adam. He interviewed and hired about 40 staff, like a mass hiring. And they had a leasing agent in town, and they were madly signing up leases. And within a couple years, we had 30 stores. Bang, up, done. So he needed a lot of staff. And I was hired as a little casual. He said I interviewed very poorly. We used to giggle about it. He said, you were so nervous. And I said, oh yeah. It's one of my very first important interviews. You know, usually you just take your resume in, you get a quick interview, you know, standing in an aisle in a food store, you know what I mean, casual. This one I had to drive into town. It was at a hotel and sit in the foyer, wait for my name. There was heaps of us. And then go in, and he was at the other side of a very big desk, and oh gosh, I was packing it. And he said, oh, it was so quiet and barely get 2 words out of me. And he said, you were red in the face, your neck was glowing. He said, oh, I nearly didn't hire you. He said, I thought, oh, he said, but there's something about you. So he gave me a go, but I was just a casual, and my first task was to greet people coming in the door. So the first day we opened, I was just so excited. Gaz and I were just married, so I had a little mortgage, and we were like, time to get a job. Got to pay the bills, get serious. So, yeah, Adam put me on the door as the greeter. He must have really thought this girl's probably not going to work out. And we were ready. We'd built the store, the videos were in, so I'd worked like a little Trojan. So he knew I could work. I had a high work ethic. And opened the door. Welcome to Blockbuster. And the first store was at Mount Gravatt for the Brisbane people. Mount Gravatt on Logan Road. Welcome to Blockbuster Mount Gravatt. Would you like to get a membership card? Come on over here to the desk. And I'd sign them up, get them their card. Next one. And I went like I loved it. Welcome to Blockbuster. He was over in the counter area sort of helping the staff that were on the registers, and they'd applied a store manager and assistant manager. So they're all standing off to one side. I was sort of the first point of contact. And he said he'll never forget it. He said this big voice came out of this little girl Welcome to Blockbuster. He said, you were just going for it. And I said, oh yeah, once I get talking. I was just nervous at that interview. So he got a completely wrong impression of what I was potentially going to be like. It's interesting. You can't, I don't know, interviewing staff, it's a real challenge. So yeah, he was very impressed, and within probably a week or so, he got me on the registers and I learnt the till and all of that. And I think it was about, I just throw a little bit of this pink, this purple down in here, but not in a line. I'm going to just jump around a little bit. Within, I think, 6 months, I was an assistant manager. A couple months later, he gave me my own store. So within the year, I was a store manager. And I set up quite a few of the stores. Like I was sort of part of the team that would go and build it for a week or so and then train them and leave them to it, you know, and go back to my own store. Then, because we got so many shops so quickly, he started hiring people like himself to sort of, you know, there were 3 of them in the end, 2 girls and himself, 2 local ladies. Anyway, a year went by and one of those ladies, she decided she was going to have a little baby and she went on maternity leave. And there were a heap of us all hoping that we'd maybe get that little job. That'd be good. So I did. I got the job and I was a district manager and I had about 15 stores. We'd really ramped up. We had heaps of stores in the end. And they were also bringing franchisors in. So there were people buying in. So it was a real mix of stores and all over Queensland. And even one of my shops was out at Alice Springs. So that was fun, flying out there and building that one and the crew. Oh gosh, I met some great people. I had some fantastic staff. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. And a lot of them were going through uni and they've gone on to, you know, build their careers, and oh, it was the best. And I was district manager for a while, and then they started selling off a lot of those stores to franchisees. So the district for 3 got really small. So Adam was brought back to Melbourne. It was always a short-term thing for him. I think he was with us for two years, maybe 2.5. So Adam was shipped back to Melbourne. That just left the 2. The lady came back briefly, but then decided she wanted to be a mum and left. So I went back into the role. Then they sold more stores off and it got down to about 30 shops, and they decided that they only needed the 1. And my partner in crime, the other district manager, she went on to work for her previous company. She'd come from a fashion background, so that was probably her passion. So she toddled off and that just left me. So for a while there I had 30 shops. More of them got sold and it whittled down to probably about 15 over the next few years. I was with them for, I think, 8 years. And in the end, they made me the state manager. And yeah, so, and Adam, the chap that hired me, he became the Victorian state manager, and then I think he went on to be the operations manager for the whole company. We used to giggle all the time, you know, about this little girl that he interviewed that he nearly didn't put on. So yeah, there you go. So you'll know what I mean if you've ever been in a position when you interview staff and you meet these young kids and you think, oh, there's something about them, but they look like they're terrified in the interview. I always give them a go. In the Christmas shops that we've got, we're always, you know, interviewing staff. Me, not so much now, but my team are. And I always say to my new managers, you know, if you've got someone in front of you that you just, even if they're sitting there going, gee, I love Christmas, I love it, Mum and I, we put the tree up, that's enough for me to hire them, to be honest. They're just showing the passion. What have I done? Why can't I stitch? I'm going to just knot that off. I think I've split a stitch, which pulled the knot out. I don't know what went wrong there. So yeah, I always say to my managers, look, that kid who's sitting there shaking like a leaf, it might be their first interview, which it usually is when you're hiring young people. Like they've got no experience, they're just kids. I think I would have been probably, we were just married, so I would have been 20-ish, so still young. I grew up on a farm. I was pretty naive to the world, a sheltered life that I'd lived. I was down in the big smoke, recently married, we'd built a little house, you know, setting up, buying couches, washing machines, so I was learning really quickly what life was all about. So an interview in the city in a big flash hotel, oh gosh, I must have looked like a little mouse. I was a skinny little thing back then too, real thin little whippy thing. I've blossomed since then. Things have blossomed. Oh my goodness. So that's 30 years ago. How'd I get on to blossoming? I'm just stitching actually back through where I was. I felt like that was very rigid, those lines, like it was very, so I'm just gonna lay in there a few extra little stitches just to mess it up a little bit. It's a bit organised. And that's what I'll do over here. I'll come back through and just get a few interesting little strokes of the needle there. That's better. It's not as, ow, there's a needle under there. Come up over here. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's good. I might leave it at that. Don't go too much, girl. Just keep it loose. Keep it loose. This is not Stitch the Season. Stitch the Season is dense, intense stitching. This is relaxed and just as I feel it, scooting around. Like even, see this leaf here? I might not even stitch it. Just use my black pen just to show the sketch of a pansy leaf. Yeah, interesting. Okay guys, let me have a look at the time. I think that might call it a day. Yeah, we're pretty close. I'm going to have a play with this now. I'll probably pop back next week, show you where I'm at, what I've discovered, what I don't like, what I do like, who knows. I might try and find a pen in the next week, and definitely going to change that hoop out. That is just not going to make me happy. All right, very good. Okay guys, I hope you have a lovely day. Hope you get some stitching too. Yeah, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.